I just wanted to go back to the principle that Maimonides brought in the third chapter. The principle in all of this is that in the Nedarim, it goes according to the speech of men, Lashon B'nei Adam. So we're talking about the power of speech, but we're interpreting speech in accordance with common usage until the way people use speech. And we're going to focus at the end of the 8th chapter on measures of time, but again, very much in terms of how people use speech to determine time. And so we're picking up in the 4th Mishnah, Ad HaKaitz, until the summer. So this is someone who swears. He swears, for example, he's not going to drink wine until. Kunam yain sheini toem hayom. We learned at the beginning of the chapter. It's like a korban if I taste wine today. And we're cycling through these examples, this vow that he's not going to taste wine, but we're just cycling through these different time intervals. So in the 4th Mishnah, he swears he's not going to drink wine ad hakaitz, until the summer, or maybe he says ad sheyeh hakaitz, until the summer shall be, and the Mishnah interprets that as ad sheyatchilu ha'am lahachnis b'kalkalot, until people begin to bring in their baskets. And we seem to be talking about the fig harvest here. Well, we'll see in a minute. We're going to look at the knives that people use for harvesting figs. So see what they're going to cut the figs, they're going to put them in baskets, they're going to bring them in. That seems to be the time that defines summer for the purpose of the vow. And if he swears he's not going to drink wine, ad sheyavor hakaitz, until the summer is finished, until the summer's passed, that means ad sheyachpilu hamitzot, until the knives are folded up. It's not, the language is not entirely clear. Maybe mitzot refers to mat that they used to lay the figs out on. Maybe it refers to knives. Kahati thinks it means knives, but the point is, it's that when they start putting away the gear for the harvest, ata katsir, until the harvest. Now, he hasn't specified now what kind of harvest we're talking about, but we're talking about katsir. So we're harvesting some kind of grain crop. And the Mishnah says, ad sheyatchil ha'am litzor ktsir chitim, until the people begin to cut the wheat harvest. Now, remember that the rich people ate wheat. Poor people ate barley. The barley harvest is before the wheat harvest, by the way. This is why it's so important to have, that's what wheat on Pesach, that's what making matzah only out of wheat on Pesach symbolizes. Yeah, we're using food that rich people eat. But the barley harvest is first. But when people talk about the harvest, ad hakatzir, they're not talking about the barley harvest, they're talking about the wheat harvest. Ad hakatzir, ad sheyatchil ha'am litzor ktsir chitim, until people begin reaping the wheat harvest. Aval lo ktsir sorim, not the barley harvest, not a month before. But it all depends on the place of his vow, makom nidro, where he swore. Because remember, the harvest is going to come at different times, depending on whether you're high up or low down. So if you're high up in the hills, it's going to come later. Im hayabahar kahar. The Mishnah goes on to explain, im hayavahar kahar. If you're high up on the hill, then the time of the harvest is when we harvest on the hill. V'im hayavabika kabika. And if he made his vow down in the valley, then he's talking about the time to harvest down in the valley. What about the weather? Maybe he's going to swear Ad hagshamim, he won't taste wine until the rains shall be. Ad shiyahu hagshamim, ad hagshamim, ad shiyu hagshamim, ad shetered reviyah sheniya. Now, the Mishnah talks about a reviyah, as a sort of it's a rain season, and the Mishnah talks about three kinds of rain seasons. There's the first, the second, and the third. And these generally, by the way, they come in the time of Cheshvan. They're just about now. And there is an opinion in, I think it's Rabbi Yossi in the Gemara, who says that the second Reviyah is the 23rd of Cheshvan. Well, that was Sunday. So we're very, very timely. The second rainfall is just about now. But the Mishnah says, if he swears, Ad hagshamim, Ad shiyahu hagashamim, now we're talking to just about now, Ad shetered reviyah shniya, until the second of the seasonal rains, the second out of the three should descend. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer, Ad sheyagia zmana lereviyah shniya. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to make a tiny, tiny clarification here. He says the vow doesn't depend on when the rain actually falls. Remember, you could have a drought. There's a drought. The rain's not going to fall at all. Maybe it doesn't fall until Shvat. And this poor guy can't drink wine. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, no. When we're talking about until the rain time, we're talking about until people expect the rain to fall. Zmana shall reviyah shniya, until we get to the time of the second reviyah, i.e., for example, until the 23rd of Cheshvan. Until the rain cease. What about that as a vow? In England, of course, you'd never be able to drink wine ever because the rain never ceases. But according to Rabbi Meir, the rain in the land of Israel ceases at the end of Nisan. Until Nisan is completed according to Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Yehuda has a different opinion. Rabbi Yehuda omer ad sheyavor haPesach. Rabbi Yehuda says, actually, no, when Pesach is through, that really is the end of the rainy season. What if he says, Kunam yain she'eni toem hashana? The same oath, Kunam, that I don't taste wine for a year. What if the year is, normal year is 12 months, but what if this turns out to be an intercalated year, a pregnant year, a year with 13 months, a leap year? Kunam yain she'eni toem hashana. Kunam, that I don't taste wine for a year. Nit abra hashana asurba uva uv ibura. He loses out. If the year is intercalated, he's forbidden during the year and during its extension. The year is assumed to mean the extension. Ad Rosh Adar, until the beginning of Adar. Now we're going to get into the detail of the extension. Because, of course, the month which is extended is going to be the month of Adar. So he swears, Ad Rosh Adar, I won't drink wine until Rosh Adar, until the beginning of Adar. Ad Rosh Adar Rishon. We're talking about the beginning of the first Adar. Adar Rishon, the first Adar, not the second Adar. Even if the year is intercalated. Ad Sof Adar, until the end of Adar. At Sof Adar Harishon, until the end of the Adar. Again, we're swearing until the end of the first Adar. Although there are some texts, not the Kaufman and not the regular printed texts, but they're quoted actually in the Gemara, in the Rishonim, that suggest actually we're talking about the end of the second Adar here. But we don't have those texts in practical terms. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kunam yain sheni toem ad sheha Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda says, and refers to someone who swears, I shall taste no wine until Pesach shall be. Now, are we going to make him wait till the end of Pesach or until Pesach is completed? And normally we would, but of course, remember, there's a mitzvah to drink wine on Pesach. And maybe people expect to drink wine on Pesach. Remember, we began by saying everything in the Nedarim goes according to the speech of men. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to say, Eino asur ela ad leil haPesach. Rabbi Yehuda says he's only prohibited from wine until the night of Pesach, until Erev Pesach. Shelo nitkavan ze ela ad sha'ah. Shederech b'nei adam lishtot yain. When he said until Pesach, he only meant until the hour when people normally drink wine. In this whole Masechet, we're being incredibly careful about the use of language and what language means and what it does, but we're always interpreting it in accordance with what people do or what people mean. The meaning of a word is its context. It's not something theoretical or philosophical.